think it's an interesting evolution of the league because now you start to see the different tactical changes, personnel changes that each team has made. And Kansas is a prime example of that. Benny's done a great job of having a bit of a slow start, figuring out their group, and now they've come into some form. So you use certain similarities and player profiles, but at the same time, you have to make sure and do everything you can as far as scouting them over their past couple games to get different tendencies and some improvements that they've made.
Yeah, awesome. If anybody has any questions, please use the raise your hand function, and we'll be sure to call on you. We'll start with Christian Butias from Dynamo Theory. Go ahead, Christian.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So I wanted to, I don't know if maybe my perception was correct or not, but I saw in the last game maybe you went with a 4-4-2 to the usual 4-3-3. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's correct or not, but if it was correct, was there a reason behind that switch for you in tactics?
Yeah, we actually changed to a three-back system, so 3-5-2, which, again, not to get too much into the weeds, but it's a long season. Personnel changes, especially a team with ours, where it's only right of us as a staff to make sure we're continually adapting to help the players and put them in the best position. So as you've seen over the last 6 games, there's a lot of fluctuation in our roster with guys on national team duty. Against St. Louis, we had Eric, Danny, and Caesar in with El Salvador. We had Brooklyn, Juan with the U.S. Some of the first team players that had played with us stayed with the first team. So, based on personnel, we changed the system. The principles of what we try to do are always the same. A system, I like to say, is just the way you line up. But what we're always trying to do is put the players in their best position and situation for them to be efficient. So we did change, but I also think, on a completely side note, I think it's important that you have the ability through a season that's this long to adjust from game to game, adjust the way that you're putting players on the field, because principally, or the principles of the game, it's all the same, right? I mean, we still have the attacking, defending, transition principles. Really, the system is just trying to create situations that benefit the players more.
And last one for me, of course, this past game was technically the first loss inside those 90 minutes. What was the message to the guys, after the match?
Well, we lost in Tacoma, and that was a pretty interesting one. The message is always the same. It's game by game. I think what happened with us in the beginning of the year was interesting, where you go 5 games unbeaten, and that I don't think has ever happened in the MLS, where the first 5 games of a season the team's gone unbeaten. So I think there were a lot of things that maybe were mirrored, or how do I say this? I think there were a lot of things that didn't get noticed because at the end of the day, everybody looked at the result. And I've said this from the beginning of the year. The results, they're very, very important, right? But at the same time, they don't always go your way. And I'll put it this way. I was happier with the St. Louis game than I was with our performance at Salt Lake. And at Salt Lake, we got 3 points, and in St. Louis, we got 0. So I think from a performance standpoint, I was happier with the way that we played in St. Louis, even though we didn't get any points. The great thing for me is you've got Diego Rosas on the field again. You've got Joe Ferruz on the field again. You've got Reese Miller starting his first game. You've got Jathan back on the field. Joyner back on the field. Things that maybe in the beginning of the year those guys weren't playing for reasons of personnel. But those experiences are important. And Hack does a great job in St. Louis. They're very organized. They're building towards a first team, so a lot of their fundamental principles they're layering in now, knowing that there might be 3 or 4 guys in this group for St. Louis that will be in their first team. So we always knew it was going to be a challenge. He's an unbelievable coach. I have all the respect in the world for him. And it comes down to moments. St. Louis, if Jacob scores the goal, the best chance we had of the game, if he scores that goal, then the ball doesn't even travel down the field that causes their first goal. So these moments, they sometimes add up. And in the beginning of the year, a lot of those moments were going for us. So it is important that the players understand that. And it is important that they hear from me that I actually thought they played a better game than they did in Salt Lake. We still want to win games. We still want to fight to win games. But as we start to layer in new personnel, and you'll see this tomorrow when you look at the roster and look at the guys on the bench, you're going to see names, and you're going to have to look at where those guys are from. How old are these guys? It's part of the project is to make sure that we're putting our young, talented players in opportunities to develop. So the message was very clear. We want to win every game. We are going to compete in every game. This is our second loss, and it's still, of the 2 losses, I don't think we as a staff ever felt we were out of the game. The goalkeeper makes an unbelievable save on Talon right after the 90th minute, and we still thought if that chance goes in, we'll probably get a result. And I think that's a testament to the players because they don't ever give up. They don't stop fighting. They're hungry to get that result.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Billy Mears. Go ahead, Billy.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing well. Just wanted to get your thoughts. We talked before about how you and the staff distribute your game plan to, say, Taylor Maples pregame, and you kind of let the guys formulate their own plan, kind of get things going on their own, and you kind of just sit back and see where they need to make changes. Just want to get your thoughts on how well they were able to distribute y'all's pregame plan against this harder defense.
Yeah, maybe I need to clarify that a little bit. Obviously throughout the week we lay out the plan. We take on opinions. I think it's very important that we understand as a staff the players see the game differently than we do, right? We see it from side to side. They see it in 360 degrees. So it's important that they have an opinion and they feel like they can give us feedback that maybe they're seeing. Pre-game, we obviously highlight the things that we've talked about all week. And then Talon's job and the leadership group's job is to make sure that the mindset's right and to make sure that there's no questions that aren't asked. So I'll be honest, I'm very proud of the fact that we've built a group that can self-regulate, can make sure that it's an open environment where they're not afraid to be someone who doesn't understand something. And that even some of the quieter guys, they know they can go to one of the older guys and a question can get asked. So I thought they did a great job. I mean, again, it comes down to moments. And this league, you're starting to see a separation in teams. But even that, like, you look at St. Louis's last game. They played Colorado, and Colorado started their first team. So we all were kind of chuckling to ourselves when we saw the lineups because we watched these games. And Colorado put out their first team. And St. Louis ended up winning on penalties. So there's not a lot of parity in some of these groups when it comes to, especially a group like St. Louis, where they're building a first team. I thought they executed things really well from an overall perspective, but the game comes down to moments. It's funny, we don't put much importance on statistics like possession. And I know that's come up in a bunch of these interviews where we've talked about, you were X amount of possession and things like that when we'd gotten results because we had executed other pieces of the game that were more important. That was the one game where we had won the possession battle. And it's something that we focused on, like how do we keep the ball more? Tomorrow, 4:30 in Houston, in the stadium at 105 degrees, who dominates the ball is who's going to create the most chances. Like it's a game where the ball is going to be important. So we've layered those aspects in throughout this whole season. And then I thought we did a great job. Now, they caught us on 2 mistakes. We didn't finish 2 opportunities. The game could have been either way. But I think the players are really buying into the fact that, they trust the process that we put them through throughout the week. And then they make sure that they control the mindset. Because once the ball rolls, we as a staff, we're guiding. They are the ones that have to execute.
Appreciate it. And one more for me. With the play of Xavier Valdez recently and Blaze's 5th shutout, how important is that for him to come up with big in those moments and then allow his teammates to know that they can depend on him back there?
Yeah, it's huge. I will say this. We have one of the strongest goalkeeping cores that I've seen, because we've played a lot of goalkeepers. And there's a real belief that those players not only can play, we can trust them with the ball, but we know they all have big saves in their locker. Xavier, Logan, Andrew, Michael played for us one game. You know, those guys, we believe that they can keep clean sheets. And it's funny being a goalkeeper, and I'm not a goalkeeper, but we know that their game is going to come down to 2 or 3 moments. And if they are ready and they're executing those 2 or 3 moments, then we'll win games. I think the trust that our back line has in them it's unbelievable. The fight that the back line has to make sure that their job is easy is something I haven't seen. And that is a testament to Sterling, Mikael, Talon, Majib, Jathan, Reese, Ian when they're in. Those guys want to fight to make sure that they get clean sheets. And they celebrate those clean sheets like the guys that score the goals. So it's a culture piece to it, and I love that about the guys.
I guess one more. How did you feel Reese Miller played in his first start?
Yeah, I thought he was great. I think, again, there's always going to be learning curves, the speed of play, the physicality, but hopefully when you watch that game, you see what Reese brings to the table. This is a kid that's going to Virginia. I think he's going to go in and be a standout right away. He has a great mentality. You know, he's physically capable of doing all of the work to play a wing back or a left back position. The chance that I talked about with Jacob, that's service from Reese. Defensively, obviously, he's playing against guys who have a lot more experience and are a lot older. But I think he handles himself really well. The one thing Reese is really, really good at is he believes in himself. He knows that even with mistakes, right, he can adjust in game, and he can make sure he doesn't make the same mistake. So the growth I've seen from him from when he was 14, which I worked with him then, all the way to now, it's really set him apart. And a lot of that is his mindset. So I'm really happy with what he saw, and I'm glad we got him that game because it's great to train and come off the bench and play a couple different positions. We played him as winger this year. To actually play his true position and start a game is fantastic.
Appreciate it, Kenny.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we'll go to Eric Gallanty from MLS Next Pro. Go ahead, Eric.
Thanks so much. Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you.
So I'll be calling this weekend's match. So just one for me, I guess it's a two-parter. I've talked with a lot of the coaches about how they've gone about preparing for some of these opponents. Just like you said, I actually had that Colorado game where all of a sudden the first team shows up, right?
Yeah.
Not when anyone expected, or maybe they got someone with it. But, and I know coaches talk a lot about, well, we're kind of just focused on us. But I do think it's one of the unique parts of the league that your opponent could look so different week to week. So from an overarching view, how have you guys kind of approached that, and how has it maybe changed over the course of 12 weeks of the season, and how you look at your opponents where things could be really totally different than what you expect week in, week out?
It's a great question. I'll start with this. Going into this project, going into this year, we knew there was going to be a ton of changes. We knew that we weren't going to be able to scout like any normal professional league where this is the roster, this is the 20, this is the consistency. So we made sure that we built our weeks to base it around us, but also base it around tendencies that we've seen from them. So a lot of the things that we did in the first 5-6 weeks was we built a real clear core of principles, and those principles go through every phase. So as you're going through the scouts every week and you're adjusting to what you're going to see, you're just tweaking things that you're doing. So you guys are probably getting used to the way I coach. You're starting to see, even as far as, substitutions and set pieces and how we press and how we build, you're starting to see consistencies. So it's really important the players understand we have a core way we want to play, and we're going to fight to play the way we want to play. Within that, though, there's an opponent. So for us, it's about taking core principles that we're seeing from other teams, and then also recognizing that there is going to be chaos. So we are going to come across something that we haven't seen before. A couple things. Tacoma game's a prime example where Tacoma went extremely direct, and we didn't anticipate that. So it was a great opportunity to explain to the boys that those adjustments in game are really important. We are going to help with that, but you also have to be aware that maybe we laid out a game plan and they've completely done something different to play against us. So it's a balance, but it does always need to be directed back to the way we want to play. Our roster has changed quite a bit too. I mean, if you look back, we're working through right now and looking at average ages of our rosters and the players that have played what minutes and what positions. We haven't had a lot of consistency as well. So it's important that, everybody that could potentially play understands the principles. So when we lay out a different system like we did, they understand that it's a different way to line up, but it's not a different way of playing. We still want to play the same way that we have for the last 12 weeks. So it's a great question. I think it's a real challenge. And this is what's great about this league, the level of coaching, the level of coaches that we as a staff get to coach against on a weekly basis, it pushes us. And I was talking to Hack before the game, and I was friends with Hack when he was the Union head coach, and I got to watch him in training sessions when he was with the Union. And now we're coaching against each other. That level, it pushes us to develop our teams and our players better and better. So it's a real strong suit for the league.